What up, Dokkanners? The March producers letter video had a lot of information that was covered, so I have done separate videos talking about every different little thing, and now we're going to be finally jumping into the big one. The new battle system, version 6.0.0. JP has officially received the announcement that this update is coming, which means JP players will be getting this at least a day, maybe two, maybe more early compared to Dokkan, I think. And if that is actually how it is, remember, let me just remind people, I know there's going to be comments, we're synced up, by the way, and all that stuff. As much as I hate it, this is just how it is. When they first announced full synchro, and this is, I'm partially to blame, other people are partially to blame when we talk about the sync, it's only certain aspects of the game that are synced up. Unification of operation schedules, when they first talked about that, they explained explicitly that it was for events and like summons and things like that. I forgot what the exact phrasing is. But the way that it was phrased, it definitely leaves it open to interpretation. And what we've learned since is that backend stuff generally will not be happening at the same time. So as much as global players, we hate to see this, JP players are likely going to be getting this first, which is just how it is. So yeah, you can blame Dokkan for it. Obviously, there's no one else to blame. But then again, they kind of told us. So there is a new content called Dokkan Frontier. And then there's a new battle system called Survival Mode. So I want to start by mentioning that distinction. What we're going to be watching in this video is showing both at the same time, but we're still going to be understanding the fundamentals of this new battle system, which is called Survival Mode. Survival Mode is not the same as regular Dokkan. Regular Dokkan involves 7 characters, 2 rotations, floaters, things like that. Here, it is a straight up 3-person trio. So this is what JP players got in their in-game news. You've got basically 2 teams, and we'll go into the details about this in the video. So let's go ahead and jump in here. I'm just going to start in order. I might get ahead of myself. I'm going to try to keep this as linear as possible so that when they explain it, we can talk about it. But there's going to be points where I kind of just have to jump around. So the new battle system, let's start with that. Each character will have their own individual HP. The characters who can participate in the battle will be 6. A friend character will not be available because here, this isn't about fluctuating rotations. This is about 2 teams of 3. You've got 2 little squads that you're going to be sending into battle. Each team has their own leader, so there's no fluctuating of rotations. It's just your same 3 over and over and over until you switch, which may seem lame because I know some people are probably going to feel down about that. Without a second friend, without another friend lead, the stats are going to be scaled down, which honestly for me is kind of great. It's something that I've always wanted for a while, is for them to kind of give us like some sort of a universal damage reset. Like, I understand Dragon Ball, the numbers need to be astronomical, but sometimes it's kind of hard to follow. And as the years go by, it just gets crazier and crazier. Scaling things back down to this, sort of like World Tournament where there's only 1 leader skill, I personally kind of prefer. So no friend lead isn't necessarily meaning you're not going to get any help. They will be providing special guest units, which we'll get to. But yeah, I think this is pretty cool. A team of 3 will be, or a team will be divided into 2 groups, Group A and Group B, as we saw right here. And they will, once again, reiterate this further. So I'm going to be skipping a lot of what they say because I can pretty much just show based on the images, but if there's anything extra, I'll just try to include it. All right, so we're looking at the new battle system here. Each character will have their own individual HP. So looking at the rotation, you can see the enemy's attack placements are still normal. Overall, this battle, like the bubbles on top look normal. The enemy gauge looks normal. But here's where things are different. Gohan Piccolo has their own HP bar. Namek Vegeta, own HP bar. The Namek nerds, their own HP bar. So if one of those units gets killed, well, you'll still have this rotation. You just won't have that one unit usable, meaning it's going to get tougher. The enemy will have more attacks focused on the remaining 2. There will be more workload focused on those that will remain. This is not based on like, hey, if you lose a character, it gets easier. No, it gets tougher. And they talk about that later. Looking at this screen here, we also see some stuff down here. This is in reference to your other team. So team A is on the main rotation. Team B is down here. They will only show up if you summon them. Meaning every single turn that goes by, you'll be coming back with the same team. So if you lose a unit on the rotation, well, that's how it's going to be until you switch. So we'll talk about the rest of the user interface as we continue. Up until now, 7 characters, including the friend character, share a single HP bar, which decreases any character when any character receives damage, and the battle will end when the bar reaches 0. In the new battle system, battle will continue even when one of the characters is knocked out. New battle system, the characters who can participate in a battle will be 6, and the friend character will not be available. A team will be divided into 2 groups. So this is what the screen is going to look like before you go in. And one thing that they don't quite explain is what each of these points do. So we'll get to that in a minute. But looking at the screen here, obviously it's different. You can even see here, it's hard to tell, but it says Act 10 Survival. So if you look at your normal screen, it'll show you how much the stamina cost is, and it will give you a different sort of phrase here. We'll say Super 2. So this is an entirely different difficulty because it is an entirely different battle system. And you can also notice the change here because if you look at the bottom of the screen, the color is now blue, whereas normal Dokkan is green. So this is another way to sort of indicate sort of like a visual difference between the two modes. So that's why they're kind of giving you more of a blue color scheme here. So looking at the top, you see your main two teams. You've got all Namek Saga characters, which they'll talk about in the new event. And then down here, it shows you a preview of what your various, I'm just going to call it alts, just because I feel like most people are used to that. Like if you play an arcade fighter, Marvel versus Capcom, Dragon Ball Fighters, Tekken, you know how you build up your gauges over time, and then if you use a certain amount of those gauges, you get a level 3, level 5 ult, stuff like that. That's essentially what this is. So a level 1, if I remember correctly, the battle system, I think level 1 gives you a heal. I think a level 2, I think gives, or maybe it's the other way around. I think level 1 gives you a stat buff for the rotation. Level 2 gives you a heal, and then level 3 allows you to swap to the other team, something like that. Like there are different abilities. I don't remember exactly what they are, but that's essentially what this is. And this is the part that they don't really explain in the video. Over time, you will build this up and you can use it whenever you want. So that's what this little preview screen looks like. So now we'll go ahead and jump in. Characters will be divided into 2 groups. At the start of the turn, you may perform a group exchange by consuming a number of charges of the dedicated gauge. I think you start with 3. Applied to this, as I just covered, those are the key differences. Various new features and skills for both allies and foes. Okay. I'll go over now what specific examples later. I'll go, okay. Based on the aforementioned explanation, the 2 groups each have their own individual powerful leader. Taking that into account, some people might consider the strategy quite different from what we're used to in Dokkan. However, this new battle system won't apply to all events, right? Correct. Because this system would naturally create certain advantages and disadvantages for existing characters, rest assured we will not apply these rules to all content at the time. So this is good because as much as I am open to this new battle system, the fundamental identity of Dokkan is what we have been using for the last 10 years. And changing that and making this the new, fundamental battle system would be the worst thing that you could do, because that would drive away the majority of players. Naturally, people sort of get accustomed to a certain way to play. Once you change that and uproot that, that's not a good thing. So if you limit it to certain modes, that is definitely a good thing. So I kind of hearken this to like burst mode. I think that they'll probably, occasionally put this on Dokkan Frontier. Maybe they'll give it to something else. I just don't want it to be changing the fundamental default way to play Dokkan. So looks like they're very much aware of that, which is good. Speaking of Dokkan Frontier, this is the new game mode. So this is where they're basically going to be allowing you to go back through the history of Dragon Ball through the various arcs. And so it looks like we're starting with Namek Saga. Now, I personally thought that because of this, we were going to have a Namek Saga celebration for Sunday, but I guess we're having Majin Buu Saga. So Tune L equals W's for everybody else. Okay. Relive the world of Dragon Ball and its iconic episodes through the battle in this brand new content. I will say, obviously, this is essentially what Dokkan is, right? You relive the moments from Dragon Ball in various ways. The way that they've done this is a very fresh and new perspective, and I like it because they've made it a little bit more cinematic in the battle itself. Not so much the cutscenes around it, which is just repurposed assets. It's like in the battle itself, and it feels way more new. I'd like to begin by saying that Dokkan Frontier is a new battle system with content designed to let you relive the world of Dragon Ball and various episodes through the battles. For the first update, we've added the Planet Namek Saga. When we say relive, you might think of the story of Dragon Ball, but rather than following a scenario, they'll be focused on individual fights that let you relive battles from the sagas. So now let's actually jump in. So this is the first mode, like the first little cover thing. You click on it and then you go into, I guess, Namek Saga, and it shows 62% complete. So that means like all the fights, the various missions and stuff. And what I love about this is that in general, Dokkan to me always kind of looked like one of my favorite games, which is Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. But now showing this, it very much looks like Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. Found some footage. Check this out. Look at that map. I love this game. Love this game so much. There's you. And here's all the... Oh, crap. You know what? I actually might get in trouble. This is like licensed copyrighted music. There's like a whole thing about that. Yeah. So this is the map, right? Looks pretty similar, right? Looks pretty similar. So I love the Budokai 2 aesthetic that they're kind of leaning into here more so than before. So we're looking at like the overall path. There are a couple of blocked things here. So let's continue. It's amazing how new the recreated map looks. If you take a look here, you might understand everything is visible right now, but when starting off, you'll have to defeat enemies to unlock the next space on the map. You could say that you are reliving Dragon Ball adventure one step at a time. You can experience Dragon Ball battles in chronological story order, defeat enemies on each stage to unlock the next mode. So you got all the different like Ginyu Force fights, 2 different versions of the Raccoon fight. If you probably meet some sort of mystery condition, you will branch off into this, which kind of gives you like Budokai vibes, maybe some Sparking Zero vibes. I don't know how extensive and how complex this can be considering it's a mobile game, it's an older mobile game, but looks pretty promising so far. As you move forward after defeating each enemy, it really shows the focus on individual battles mentioned at the very beginning. You can even tell just looking at the map. This gets me really excited to see what battles are like. You're probably curious, so let's have Geppy try a battle for real. So we jump into our first fight against Pui Pui, which is right here. So this is what the squad looks like. The UI is different from usual, as we mentioned before. You got your squad over here, squad over here. Got a better look now at the difficulty modifier. It's called survival. So this means this is going to be using the new battle system. Again, I can't read all this stuff. Actually, wait, yeah, it shows HP. So this is probably the heal. And then this one is, if I remember correctly, you not only swap, but you swap and give them an attack boost, I believe. And then this one, I don't know what this is. I forgot. They don't talk about it in the video, sadly. You might see some words we talked about earlier, but this time I'd like to point one. There's one point I'd like to mention. As for the basic team rules, you must use characters that match the scenario. So that is the other added gimmick to Dokkan Frontier. So because we're in Namek Saga, they want you to be using Namek Saga characters because in general they provide a bigger advantage. And then you'll even see that there's an arrow up on the Vegeta. Why? Well, because you're fighting Kui, right? Is it Kui? Bringing Vegeta is pretty important considering he's the one that takes care of him. You must form a team using characters from categories relevant to the story. So I think the reason that they chose Namek Saga was probably because there is an ample amount of characters, both free to play and otherwise, that they would expect people to already have access to at this point. And that's why they decided to start with this. If I'm being perfectly honest, if we were taking that into consideration, I feel like Majin Buu Saga would be better just because Majin Buu Saga has a wider array of free-to-play characters. We have the most free-to-play characters in the game from Majin Buu Saga, but whatever. Okay, so let's go. I think they're going to show like team building, right? You get small boosts in stats. In other modes, if you already use Namek Saga category characters, you get small boosts in stats. However, now you have to build your party with designated category characters. Instead of the friend unit like we had before, it shows you right here. This is also kind of my second time going through this. The first time was kind of rushed. So these special guest characters are default options that they will provide, meaning they're probably lower stats, definitely not max links. They'll probably be like level 5 links, but you do have a few choices to choose from, either the Dokkan Festival one or the support, and you got your own characters to choose from, which is pretty cute. So I'd like to take a look at Vegeta. Oh, they've added a survival passive in the unit breakdown. I don't know if this is going to be a temporary thing or if this is just going to be a permanent fixture, like every character that is involved in a new mode, they'll just keep it in there. But this is kind of what I was talking about with my recent theories on what this new Sanda unit was going to be like. I don't want this to be a thing where like the new mode sort of dictates whether people have to summon. So I'm hoping that this is just a temporary thing that they only do within the confines of the mode. You don't see this outside of the character's kit. But as you can see here, attack plus 800%, defense plus 300%. This may seem like a lot for a Dokkan Festival unit that released just a couple years ago, but remember, your leader skills have scaled down. You only have one leader skill now per trio. So this sort of a stat buff is definitely not going to be on the same level that you're accustomed to seeing. So that also kind of gives this mode a bit of freshness because we're so used to a certain way of thinking and approaching the game, but now with all of this being the way that it is, it changes it up. Next up, the UI and the party formation received a big change from before, so we talked about that. You'll need 2 groups. There's another thing you might be curious about. I'd like to point out the group exchange displayed at the bottom. Maybe a bit complicated, but we'll have Geppy explain the details through the live battle. There's another thing. What the hell? Why does it keep repeating? The text is so weird. Let's jump right in. All right. So we press start. All right. It is our squad versus Kui. We got our rotations. Everybody's at full health. We got our second team down there on the bench. Oh, this is awesome. They have dynamic cutscenes in the game, and you can hear voiceovers. In the middle of the battle, having those cutscenes is pretty cool. The assets are obviously ones that we've seen before. Some new assets here in terms of the cut-ins, but the voiceovers will definitely, there'll be some like extra unique lines, and you know, you can probably bank those as potential lines that they throw in the future for like active skills and stuff, but that is going to be a new added dimension in terms of data files. So I know that we're still in the process of this whole like data file size optimization thing. They kind of had to backpedal on it because the quality in the animations got really bad. So they're still working on that, but in the meantime, it's probably going to result in the game being even heftier than before. So just kind of pre-warning for that. Okay, so this new dynamic voiceover stuff, it will change when certain conditions are met. So when the enemy is at like full health, there'll be a certain sort of dialogue. When Kui gets injured, or you know, other enemies get injured, the voice lines might change, which is really cool. I'd expect no less from Vegeta, but Kui also has some cool voice lines. The UI displays many features on the new battle system, but first, let's start with the bars to the right of every character that displays at 100%. 100%. That means your health. It won't affect the way you play, it just means everyone has their own health bar now, so even if a unit gets KO'd, it won't result in a game over and the battle can continue. It is now set up so that the character getting hit will have their health individually reduced. Now, Geppy, continue the battle. We've talked about how everyone has their own HP, causing team formations to change a bit. However, a single turn of battle hasn't really changed much. So at the end of the day, once we did all that, we're back to normal here. You see that the actual damage taken is displayed on the individual character, and the damage is now going to be different. Again, because the values have changed, the leader skill meta has changed, you're going to be seeing some weirder numbers. Instead of like, you know, 5 million or double digits, you're going to potentially see something more like this, because some of these fights might be a little bit more escalation based. So it's going to change the way the flow of combat goes damage wise. Characters like Frieza, who are slot 1 experts, stacking experts, you're going to see those types of mechanics be more useful in this demo. As far as like moving forward, it'll just depend on how they present different conditions. You'll need to keep track of which enemy is attacking which character. As long as they aren't KO'd, the turn order won't change. Okay, so now you're seeing Exchange Vegeta. God, this guy was really something when he first came out. And now he's back. When it comes to the main screen's UI, a lot catches my attention, such as Group B being visible at the bottom. I didn't expect Kui to be this strong. His health hasn't really gone down. Just to clarify, Dokkan Frontier isn't simple content that you can hop into right away. It's meant for players who have already cleared high difficulty events or understand the basics of Dokkan Battle really well. So there's another thing for you guys. This is not some sort of like necessarily beginner friendly thing. You still need to understand the ins and outs of the game, and this is just like a fresh take on it. So if you are a newer player, this is going to be a lot more challenging. So now you see another thing just popped up on Kui's screen. HP 50%, attack plus 300, defense 100% down. So you see that, and then also you'll see something else in just a second. So that little hazard thing popped up as well, so they're going to talk about that. First, what was it that seemed to be Kui's skill activated? Let's start by looking at the screen with Kui. From the enemy side, you can see that the enemy passive skill do exist in Dokkan Frontier. For this stage, when Kui's health drops below 50%, a special skill activates where they... What? where they get a special skill that activates, granting 300%. What the? 300% attack boost, but lowers their defense by 100%. So they're including different and more unique sort of dynamic abilities for the bosses, just to give you like more things to think about and consider, which is cool. In addition to boosting stats, they may also trigger a variety of battle mechanics. Okay. You're probably also curious by this. It might be the warning that shows on screen, where a mark pops up on the bottom right displayed as level 1. That too is a feature of the new battle system for an alert when the intensity level rises. This, I think, is a pretty cool new feature. The intensity level will be designated by level 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. The flickering in the bottom right screen where the level is shown. Fighting with the same group over an extended period of time will increase the intensity level. So, if you're running a triple stack team and you're stacking quite well, things are going pretty well for you, you might notice that the intensity goes up. That is because they're trying to balance the scales a little bit. If you keep the same rotation and you're cooking pretty well, then chances are you're probably thinking you're going to coast the rest of the way. The intensity level will add extra mechanics, add the stats to make it more challenging. And if you want to circumvent that issue altogether, then you would simply swap to the other team. That is how you can avoid the intensity level from going up. And that's what it says here. Intensity level increases and the same group continues to battle. Depending on how high the intensity level becomes, various effects will be triggered in the battle. I don't think that this was very clear to us when we were trying the demo play. I think it was just more so trying to get through the fight to win. But yeah, knowing this now, that definitely changes your approach. This will impact the characters in your party here. Since we're fighting Kui, the maximum intensity level is just 1, but in other stages or higher difficulty stages, there will be more levels that show up. It's possible to lower the intensity by switching groups with group exchange. So using group exchange is an effective way of handling this. What's more, the intensity level is designed to change based on the past turns too. Right now we have group A battling. As one turn passes, the intensity level increases by 1. When switching to the group on standby, group B, as one turn passes, the intensity level decreases by 1. So even if you do this, let's say like you get to intensity level 5 and things are looking really bleak, you swap to the other team, it's not going to drop down to intensity level 1 or 0. It's going to drop down to 4 based on what they're saying here. As the intensity level increases and it gets more difficult, it's important to switch. Yeah. Currently, you should be able to defeat Kui without too much trouble, but as the difficulty ramps up, it'll be essential to switch groups. Oh, yeah. Look at the damage now. We took 25k before. Look at this now. Freeze has been stacking, but he took 30... Wait, what? Was that 39,000? No, 398,000. Yeah. 398,000. That's a big change. Damn. That intensity level was insane. He's been in slot 1 the whole time. He still has his damage reduction. He still has his guard. And that's how much he takes on the second turn. There you go. That's what I'm saying. So you see Freeze full power super attack boost grants a growing back attack and defense. And because of how the battle system works, one of its advantages is that it's easier to charge up every turn. If you think about it another way, bringing a character with high damage reduction for just one turn and then pulling them back once after they use their moves is one way to cover their weakness. We managed to win. Nice. With that, you can move on to the next space and the story will continue. Usually when you get your first clear, you'll get notifications on who you will challenge next and the map space is unlocked. We've touched upon the flow of battle, so now let's go up against an enemy who is a little bit more difficult. We're going up against Zarbon. Oh my. So we got our same team. They changed it up a little bit. They brought the int special guest for this one. About special guests, if you have not recruited this required character, you can select them from the special guests. You can also take advantage of this feature if you do not have enough characters from the specified categories. So this might have been a concern for some of you guys going into this. Maybe you don't have any Namek Saga characters besides your free-to-play Ginyu Force. That ain't gonna cut it, right? So these units will help you in terms of filling the roster. As far as how good they are compared to other units, it's probably gonna be pretty bleak there. Like I think this unit right here is probably gonna be 55% level 5 links. That's gonna be my guess, but we'll see. And as far as the changes here, I don't know if we necessarily saw anything. Let me see. Did they show anything? It's kind of hard to see. I see HP 30%. I see attack and defense 40%. So my guess is still 30% heal. Here, you will swap to your other team and you'll get a 40% attack and defense buff. That's my guess. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump in. Once again, we're going to get some dynamic voice lines here between Zarbon and Vegeta. Okay. I understand a couple of those words. Yattemiro means, let's see, try it out. Give it your best shot. Kisama means, it's a very bad word. Okay, these voice lines have been added not just at the beginning of the battle, but they can also trigger during the battle too. We will see that, a dynamic voice change that happens later. They've also designed to match what's happening during battle, so make sure to keep an eye out for them. Don't you just feel absolutely thrilled hearing their exchanges mid-battle? As I mentioned before, there's a lot of fun to be had discovering all these moments to get you immersed. All right, previously we had Kui suddenly get strong when HP is 50% or below, so I'm wondering what Super Zarbon will do. So here's our rotation. Once again, we're doing our thing. All right, we're smacking them with, we're taking double digits. Very good. We got 5.8. Is that 5 point? God, I can't read numbers anymore. 5.8 million? Yeah, that's 5.8 million. It's been so long since I've seen those types of numbers that it kind of throws me off. All right, so 5.8 million attack stat for the Goku, and we do 5 million damage on a crit. Okay, so now we're gonna move up a little bit. Let's move to the next rotation. We don't need to watch all this again. Oh, Vegeta took, so this is the special guest. He did 900,000. Okay. All right. So now we got a new situation here. He got a juice up. Oh. Hold on. He didn't get it yet. Just kidding. Zarbon gets a 200% attack boost after health dropping to 50%. No dynamic voice change just yet. So look at our health. 99% on the Goku, 95% on the Vegeta, 100% on the slot 3 special guest. Well, you see we're already at level 2 of the intensity after one turn has passed. Okay. But since the gimmick hasn't activated yet, it's not glowing. So intensity level only becomes an issue when it reaches 2 in this particular fight. So intensity level 1 is fine, but when it gets to 2, that's when you got to worry. And then after that, going from 3 to 3, it doesn't do anything. Going to 4 seemingly gives you 2 different issues. Okay. There's actually quite a lot of effects. Additional attacks won't activate. Oh yeah, the new abilities are actually pretty cool. Additional attacks, they will cancel your additionals. Not only will they cancel dodges, you know, like what they normally do, they will cancel additionals, which is pretty cool. And an all-out attack will be added. Now, I don't know what this is. To me, this sounds like an enemy Dokkan attack, which I think we'll see in the video. Let's keep going here. Does seem like a lot to take in, doesn't it? Since an attack isn't coming from the first slot, we'll just keep going. It's reassuring to know how the lacked actor is. Now we'll pick up the int key spheres to recover. Okay. So now we're at 8.2 million for the Goku. He did about, what was it, 5 million on the first super, on the first turn. So what are we looking at here? 4 million on a non-crit. Okay. He gets an additional. So he's going to take him out. But this is not over. This is just the first phase of the fight. All right, so he dead. All right, let's go ahead and turn this back on. There's a lot going on right there, right? First of all, cooler cut in. You also saw this like red dot sight sort of scope at the bottom of his cut in. Super attack. That's the seal protection. That's a new mechanic. So that I believe is the all-out attack. I think. I really hope the dub sounds good. I'm gonna be really bummed out if the dub doesn't sound good. All right, so the intensity level has reached level 2, so now he's scarier. All right, let's go ahead and see what does this do. When HP is below 70%, it focuses attack on the ally with the lowest HP. That's new. We've never seen that before. So focusing on the weak link is pretty scary, and that is also going to force you to focus a little bit more on your team building. So in this particular case, this I don't think was made very clear. Who is the weak link here? That's interesting. Now that we've moved to a new round of Super Zarbon, many things, including skills, are changing as well. So let's see what happens, because right now, Goku in slot 1 is the weak link, right? He's got 99% health. So what happens when we heal him up and they're all at level 100%? This time, okay, so for this hazard level 2, there will be no additional attacks. That's what this says right here. That said, Geppy, Super Zarbon's enemy skill hasn't activated yet. Okay. I'll go ahead and continue as is. Okay, so he's got 100% health. Goku's becoming strong. Sure. And yeah, all right, so everybody's done their thing. Okay. Since it's still the third turn, the guard is active as well. All right, so we're at almost 9 million attack stat for the Goku. Okay. Goku attacks, yada, yada. Okay, 8.5 on a crit. And he is still attacking the Goku, okay? And now we got Vegeta doing his thing in slot 2. 6 million damage right there. Is that 20 million attack stat? Nope, that's 2 million. That is a 2 million attack stat. We need commas. 700,000 damage. He takes... Wait, what? Dang. Okay. Oh, right. His health had to drop. That's why nothing happened yet. Okay. So now that his health, as I guess, reached... Has it reached 70%? I think we're about to see what happens. So right now, Vegeta in slot 3 has the lowest health amount. So we're on turn 3. The hazard level has gone up, but the perks have not changed. So now Goku has 100% health. Vegeta Exchange has 100% health. And now, look at that. 62%, and Zarbon has acted. Everything is about to smash into Vegeta. Oh, boy. So we got to kill him before that happens. Since it activates based on timing, you can anticipate when it's coming. All right, so then this guy does his thing. No retaliation here. So you have an opportunity to kill, but this dude's about to get wiped out. And remember, this doesn't end your fight. This just ends this unit. He took 1 million, he's dead. Lost. He died. And now all of those attacks will default to the next adjacent character. But now that he's lost, your rotation is basically 2 out of 3. Which means more attacks are focused on the remaining 2. Everything gets more difficult. And now the hazard level has gone up. We're at level 5. We jumped from hazard level 3 to hazard level 5, and they'll explain why in just a second. So the enemy's been lost. They did. You cannot use a revive. They will not come back. When character's HP reaches 0, they will enter the lost state. You may still change their position, but they cannot obtain key spheres or activate any skills except for the leader skill. The attack goes to the next character. In this case, Goku is in slot 2 as if he were in the slot 1 position. So now it's a 2-man rotation effectively. So while this unit is there, it's not going to change anything. All those attacks from Zarbon will be hitting slot 1. What I'm curious about though, I think, does that also mean that Goku will still be... I think that still means Goku is slot 1. So my question is, what happens to a character that needs to be in slot 2 or slot 3? How would that work? Like if a unit is... You know how like Yakon, for example, the new Yakon character, he gets certain abilities by being in slot 3, right? So what happens when you're on a rotation where 1 unit is lost or even 2 units are lost? What happens when you are the 3rd attacker in a turn? Will you inherit all of these abilities in whatever slot you're in? That I am not sure about. I don't know if they necessarily talk about it here. Okay. Intensity is now reached level 5. There's one thing to be explained here. So yeah, they're going to talk about how it says 4 plus 1. Normally it would be 4, but I think you can see the +1 in the brackets next to it, right? The number in brackets is added when a character becomes lost. It increases depending on the number of lost characters, and since the +1 stays permanently, it will always be displayed in the brackets. The lost state is pretty punishing, which means Geppy, who has been using Group A all along might want to consider changing. And so here are the effects that he can use in terms of the changing. So again, they don't show this in the video, how you can like build up the points. If I remember correctly, it's just based on the turns passed. We'll obviously see that when we get the new mode, but he's now going to use one of this. The effects will be different based on the number of bars in these gauges, so you could select the one that you prefer. So he chose the third option, which means now you can see at the bottom, the bar is completely empty. He swapped to his Ginyu Force team. Group A is now on the bench, and the bar is completely empty. There is no intensity left on Group B. They were given a sizable stat buff as well because of the perk, but they don't fixate on that. But as the Ginyu Raccoon picked, or the Guldo Raccoon picked up those orbs, we got the Dokkan attack here. So this is another big change. The Dokkan attack can be used on the character of your choosing. Instead of the slot 1 unit, or the first character to launch a super, it's now the character that you want to be given that boost. So that's what this is right here. You get to select the character that you want to give the Dokkan attack to. He's going to give it to the AGL Ginyu because type advantage. So he's going to give Dokkan mode to Ginyu. You'll see it right here. There it is. And now the gauge is gone. There's no Z tapping. It just proceeds straight into the Dokkan attack. I wonder why they removed the Z part. Was it just because they wanted to keep this as like straightforward as possible? There's already enough like complications in this game mode. From here on out, it's the same order as usual, including the super attack, but we took him out. And that wraps up the Zarbon fight. And that wraps up the gameplay portion we wanted to show today. You may still have questions about it. We hope you'll try out the new battle system for yourselves. Thank you very much. You can obtain, oh yeah. Let's see. One final thing. I'd like to introduce the new rewards you can obtain in Dokkan Frontier. So besides Dragon Stones, besides the usual sort of rewards that you've come to expect, this new reward that they're going to be providing is purely cosmetic, but it's pretty cool. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be adding, for lack of a better way to look at this, they're going to be adding more dynamic sort of LR type effects for TURs. And for LRs, they're going to be adding these like little automatopoeia special effect type things, I think. Or maybe it's just going to be a quote. Actually, I think they say something. The final display changes will be based on whether the character is UR or LR. And they're also going to be adding a voiceover. So this is the TUR going from a regular, unit to something like this. That's pretty cool. Wait, the letters changed. Oh yeah. The colors changed. It's kind of like a holographic or like a foil or something. That's pretty cool. Purely superficial, purely cosmetic, ultimately it doesn't change or impact the game in any way. If anything, it might just slow down your game. And now for LRs, they will have a line of dialogue, not an automatopoeia. It's going to be a line of dialogue with a matching voice line to go with it. So let me go ahead and turn this on so you guys can hear it.
でボイスも流れるというような形になっております。で BGM に関しましては UR も
Well, for BGM, both UR and LRs will have their own character exclusive music. Oh, that's cool.
LR も両方とも入る。それぞれのキャラ専用の BGM しっかりなりますので、はい。
ありがとうございます。いやめちゃくちゃ楽しみにしてます。
So did you hear that? That's what this was.
はい、ありがとうございます。
新バトルシステムに
And you can also see
めちゃくちゃ楽しみにしてます。
once again, you can see the rainbow text on the name. Pretty cool. And that about wraps up the full breakdown for the new battle system. Again, the battle system itself is called Survival. The new mode is called Dokkan Frontier. I don't imagine this mode is going to use anything other than the new battle system, since this is the first mode that's releasing with it. So I think moving forward, every Dokkan Frontier stage or chapter or whatever they give you will always require the new battle system. I'm hoping that they will kind of keep it simple with this for the time being. And over time, as players get more accustomed to it, it becomes more of a regular thing in the Dokkan space. Then we can start to expand beyond that. But for right now, I think this will be enough, because ultimately, I don't want this to compromise the regular Dokkan experience. Whether or not you're a fan of this, having the core identity of the game be what we've been accustomed to for 10 years, I think is the most important thing. But I am very much looking forward to this. This reinvents the game in a very clever way, to me, from what I've seen, and since I had a chance to actually get a hands-on experience, to me, it looks pretty simple. There will be a bit of a learning curve, but I think early on they will provide us enough time to like kind of get used to this. Plus, since you know it's going to be a little bit slow between now and GDC, now that GDC's been pushed back a little bit, if there's ever a point where you feel like, hey, there's nothing really to do in the game, you could always give this a try. And I think that this is going to be a good source of content that will be fun. And again, at the end of this, they announced that Omatsu is stepping down as the main producer. He will still be on the operations team. One thing that I kind of realized when I was going through this a second time was that this is, I don't know if this is necessarily like reactionary. This might just be more of a systemic thing that they do. Maybe it's just like, because before Omatsu and before Koto, there was another guy, I forgot what his name was, but he was there for a while too before Omatsu stepped in. I think Omatsu just had the longest tenure. But the way I kind of see it, it might be more like a country's leadership, where like you have them, you know, kind of leading, spearheading the project for a few years, and then someone else sort of steps in. Maybe they have a different vision that could, you know, send the game in a different direction. So maybe they want to let someone else do that. So I think that actually might be what this is, but I don't know. To me personally, I'm very bummed because I've grown accustomed to seeing Omatsu at all these things. Also, it was really cool to meet him. And dude, he's my buddy. I feel bad. I feel bad personally just because I won't get to see him. But now Geppy will be stepping in as the main producer. He will still be part of the operation team. I think Koto is still there as part of the operation team. But yeah, anyway, we're going to keep this on the new battle system. So there you have it. That is the full breakdown of the battle system. Again, there are still some things left to be seen. We don't know everything about it. We will obviously do a bunch of, you know, videos and streams going through it. I am looking forward to it, and I can't wait to see what this is. JP players will probably be getting it first, so I hate you guys. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below. Let in the comments your thoughts on the new battle system. Your early impressions, your impressions after seeing the breakdown, seeing what the units are going to be doing, what the mode looks like. Does it look promising to you? After all this, do you just simply not care? Let me know your thoughts overall in the comments down below. Also, be sure to subscribe for more content in the future and click the notification bell so that you let YouTube know I'm going to see more myself do it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned, and always remember to Dokkan responsibly.